Starting. Okay, we're good. Only issue is this thing is a little bit delayed, but that's cool. All right. What's up, everybody? Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. By the way, there will be an audio-only version of the following podcast. So if you guys are about to head out to the gym, head out for a walk or something, and you wanted to pop in the headphones on your smartphone, listen to the audio-only version of this conversation, you can get the free Red Pill Philosophy app. And basically download it onto your phone, and you can basically take it anywhere with you. It's portable, it's convenient. The link to that app is in the link below. Today I'm joined by a internet friend of mine. I don't know him personally, at least not in person, but we've exchanged conversations and stuff for, I don't know, maybe about a year now. He's got his own YouTube channel. I'll link that up somewhere on screen or below. He talks about all types of, a lot of similar stuff. Definitely, we kind of both get into like the feminism thing and the bullshit that is the feminist nonsense. And he does go into a range of other topics, so check out his channel. But yes, here we are, man. So you had a question for me earlier. I think that probably is a good starting place. So if you want to go ahead and just ask me that question again, and we'll go into it.
No worries. So yeah, my channel is called No Holds Barred. So yeah, find that on YouTube. I talk about a lot of stuff fairly similar to Red Pill philosophy, and yeah, more recently been into anti-feminism stuff as well. So my question for Red Pill philosophy is: now that you understand women from a critical perspective, how do you approach women, and what is your relationship with women in your daily lives now? Because like there's that old saying that you can understand women or you can love them, but you can't do both. And I was wondering, how do you find common ground between your brain and your balls, essentially?
It's funny because I did a video for one of my Red Pill members earlier today. Basically, the title of the video is that I am the true feminist. And the reason that I say that is because to me, feminism is anti-femininity. And I know this is very politically incorrect nowadays, though if you go to any bar or nightclub, it's not politically incorrect. It's actually the norm. There's different worlds. We have the reality, which the feminists and the politically correct social justice warriors don't want to look at. And then we have the fake world of these feminists and the SJWs who like to pretend the world is in a certain way to fit their delusional viewpoints. But yeah, I mean, the reason I think that I am the true feminist is because I actually do care about women. I tweeted out the other day, I love women, therefore I hate feminism. And, you know, there's a certain understanding that you have to make when it comes to what it means to be a woman. Women do have such a, there are differences between men and women. Feminism tries to blur the difference between men and women. They don't want there to be differences because that's just their whole ideology. It's all about kind of an assimilation or disintegration of the difference between the male and the female. But there is absolutely a difference. And to me, to truly care about women is to acknowledge that they're different. To acknowledge that because women are different from men, you accept them for who they are. You don't shame women. Shame women because women might want to be housewives. I mean, you got Katie Cuoco. She's one of the female main actors from the show The Big Bang Theory. I don't watch it, but I hear it's popular. And she came out and publicly said that she likes being a traditional kind of housewife. She said that she doesn't identify herself as a feminist, and she likes to serve her husband and cook him dinner.
Yeah.
And the feminists they fucking exploded. Like their brains exploded. They went on a fucking assault and they attacked the poor girl, and she had to apologize. So you know, there are differences between men and women that the modern feminist movement denies. And to me, that's not pro-woman. That's not pro-femininity. That is to shame women. It's to deny what women are. And this is why I've said before that feminism is almost just masculinism in a way, because all it's really doing is like encouraging women to behave like men, which is a little bit weird to me. Anyways, so on to your question, Yeah, the best thing I ever did as a man was to stop treating women the way feminism tells me to. It's funny. Another tweet I sent out the other day was, um, if you treat women the way feminism tells you to, you get friend zoned. And this is a common occurrence. Like, and the reason that you get friend zoned is because women don't react. I mean, in terms of a potentially sexual relationship, women don't, they're not interested in a timid guy who tiptoes through life, doesn't assert himself, because there is a difference between man and woman, and that polarity, that energetic polarity difference between the man and the woman, that's where the attraction, kind of sparks from. And if men and women are just going to, in the name of modern feminist politically correct ideologies, if we're just going to like neutralize the polarity difference between a masculine man and a feminine woman, if we just neutralize that, then we're not,
Uh-oh.
that polarity is not going to exist. And when a man goes up, it's going to be surged within. Did I freeze? Can you hear me though?
Yeah, yeah, it's just glitching.
Okay, well, if you can hear me, that's good. I'll keep. I'll try to restart the camera. All
You
right.
just
Well, anyway,
yeah,
I mean, as long as you can hear me, can you hear me?
yeah, okay now.
Okay, cool. I'll get the camera working. Um, I think I know what caused that. Anyways, so yeah, these differences do exist, and when you ignore them, all you end up causing is, there you go. I should be back. Should be back,
Yeah.
right? Yay. Okay. Um, right. So I kind of lost my train. Okay, yeah. So you have to accept the woman, to truly love women is to accept that there are differences. And the modern feminist movement, again, if you take the feminist movement's word for how you should treat women, all this timid, overly polite kind of shit, you just get fucking friend zoned, because a lot of women, not all, you have to be a self-loving woman. You have to be a woman who's in tune with her femininity. If you're too timid, she's just not going to like you. This is just so often the case. Now, I'm not saying you have to be an asshole or to be a jerk or to be abusive or anything, but you have to truly assert yourself without shame, without guilt, without timidity and insecurity. And and that's the core of it. And I don't want to get into the 50 Shades conversation, at least not yet. That's a whole other freaking
Yeah.
social dynamic that's going on right now. But yeah, I mean that just kind of sums it up to me, man. Like, to me is like the best thing I ever did when it comes to women is to not take the mainstream feminist movement's advice, and to start really just doing what I feel is right, what I desire, feel it, and then execute it. And that works a shit ton better when it comes to talking to women and interacting with women than going in, because it's like, if you don't take yourself seriously, the woman is not going to take you seriously. It's really what it comes down to, and it just has to do with what it means to be feminine. Anyways, that's kind of the gist of it for now. But yeah.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of what you said. I mean, even a few years ago, when a few of my friends started reading books on game and things like that, I didn't really get interested in those ideas. But a few years later now, I've like found that kind of information on YouTube. I realized I was already applying that in my approach anyway, where it's more about detachment from outcome and being centered in yourself and what you want, so that you're essentially giving women the opportunity to submit a little bit, embrace like your good qualities, whereas like a timid person is always pandering for approval.
Yes.
Women don't feel like they can be vulnerable around men like that because
Yes.
they're insecure, and it's an unstable kind of, I guess, relationship. But you hit a key point in that answer there, where you use the word denial a few times, and I think and you also use the term political correctness. And what I see essentially is like branching out, not just to do with gender dynamics, but specifically with gender dynamics, I notice it more than most other areas, is that to be politically correct is to deny truth, because politics is based on lies that make people feel good and enable people to make money. And one of the areas that this has a strong emotional attachment to, particularly in I guess, the ideology of equality, is that we're seeing a complete denial of human sexual dimorphism, so that men and women are pretending to be one and the same. You have the spiritually castrated men, and then you have the women that have metaphorical balls, and you see people are playing to their weaknesses instead of embracing their strengths, and this plays into the current hierarchy which wants dominance over the population. So like, I guess like recently in the last few weeks, one of the biggest findings in relation to human sexual dimorphism that I've discovered is that women are still dependent on men for survival. Whereas in the past, this dependency was based on a man's manual labor utility for his ability to go hunting if you go further back. Then more recently, on his ability to secure an income, because women didn't have as much opportunity to work. But then as men innovated male human labor, we had an increasing role to play in workplace occupation. So now, essentially, what has occurred is women are essentially doing roles that were, you've pointed out, that were traditionally female roles anyway. I got a woman at Subway last night to make me a sandwich. That's not empowerment. And I guess the biggest statistic that explains this is that women consume 85% of the resources on the planet, or at least make up for 85% of consumer purchases. And men run 80% of the infrastructural systems that support our lives. And more importantly than that, I think, is that men account for 95% of all inventions on the planet.
Right.
And these inventions are essentially making traditional male labor roles obsolete. And what's occurring from that is that these biological, evolutionary, ingrained, operate like what do you call it? Like what drives women to men sexually is kind of being tested at the moment, because traditionally it was like men have to be strong men, provide for women, and now that's becoming increasingly obsolete. And meanwhile, feminism pushes the idea that women can do anything men can do, and essentially male innovative capacity is being stifled for the sake of gender equality and a denial of our sexual dimorphism.
That's intense. Yeah, I mean that's a funny. Yeah, that's a funny thing that happens. It's technology, man. I know you're kind of into like the Zeitgeist, Venus Project type stuff. Technology is definitely changing so much. It's affecting everything. I mean, it's affecting jobs. I'm pretty sure you know this. The idea that robots might literally replace a shit ton of different human jobs, that's the future. It's fucking inevitable at this point. And it's really just revolutionizing the landscape at a pace exponentially faster than humans evolve. So robots are evolving, and they talk about the singularity, that technology just continues to evolve at a more rapid pace, all while we dumb ape humans are like fucking, we have programming and biological hardwiring from like fucking goddamn thousands and thousands of years ago that's still ingrained in us. Like, we're still like these monkey apes who gotta like masturbate like every fucking day just to like survive, and we have to like, but yet we're going to the moon and we're sending probes into fucking space, and we got quantum computer people creating quantum computers that fucking use the power of quantum mechanics and superposition and entanglement to like do computing at a pace faster than anything we've ever imagined with normal traditional digital computers. These quantum computers are fucking incredible. So, I mean, yeah, I mean, the implications of the radical changes happening on a technological level, when you compare it to our fucking primitive biological evolution, it's like, I don't even know where to begin. The conversation is so fucking like just expansive and explosive in all the different areas it can go in. But definitely on the level of human sexuality, things are starting to fucking get kind of freaky and tricky because, you know, I said this in a podcast I did not too long ago called Women No Longer Really Need Men. Pretty sure that's what it was called. Um, yeah, and you kind of just brushed over it yourself that, you know, women now kind of make their own income. They're not really dependent on men anymore. They have their own jobs. They don't really need a guy. They can live on their own. They can literally live like on their own. Like they can have their own little home, and they can. And my what I said in that podcast was, you know, women no longer really need men. So they work their 9 to 5 job. They make their nice little cash, and then they go on the weekends. And you know, to me, honestly, I think monogamy. You know, we always get this impression that women like long-term loyal
It's
relationships.
obsolete.
Huh?
Monogamy is obsolete.
Yeah, it's freaky.
even if,
And then
even if that's what people want, it's like all you have to do is be in a relationship with a woman and have a fight. She can just get Tinder out and be like, oh, look at this, there's 100 dicks that could be inside me at any second. It's
and
like, yeah.
the freaky thing is that you kind of realize that, you know, monogamy, maybe people never, you know, because monogamy is always based on, oh, unconditional love and I love you forever until death do us part. And it maybe people didn't really actually love each other. It was just what they settled for out of survival. And that's what I would argue is that, you know, it's not like you can't love people. It's not like you can't have connections with people. It's not like you can't, you know, care about people. But I think monogamy was more an insurance policy. It was a survival mechanism. It's like, oh, well, if I just marry my hubby and he takes care of me for 80 years, fuck yeah, I'll just settle down for one cock. Fuck yeah, I'll just blow this man every night and I'll be happy. Is that what women ideally liked? You know, we always have this view that women are prude and that they don't really like sex and that, you know, they're the ones who want tied down relationships, they're the ones who want marriage, and that men are just a savage sexual pigs who want to go out and fuck everything. I don't know if that's true. I bet women are just as much sexual creatures as men are, and you're kind of seeing that already in the modern Western empire. Like again, like I said, a woman has her job, she gets her money, and then she can just go out on the weekends to the bars and clubs and just one night stand and get fucked and fuck all types of dudes. And again, I'm not condemning it. And let me get that clear. I don't want people to think that I'm some kind of like, you know, guy who hates women who are sexual. There are some men who, especially some of them in the MGTOW and the kind of MRA movement, not all of them, but a couple of them, who have the view that, you know, and I got into an extensive Twitter debate with some guy on Twitter about sluts, and I try to make the argument that I don't see any rational basis for the belief that a sexually active, sexually promiscuous woman, a slut, is a bad thing. I couldn't, and he tried to convince me, and I didn't really know where he was coming from. I didn't get it. Maybe I'm dumb. I don't think I'm stupid. But he basically tried to say something along the lines of, it was a weird, honestly, I can't even remember because it was this overly, it seemed like he was trying to come up with some overly complicated theory to like,
Yeah.
so that
What
I couldn't actually respond.
the reason that people have evolved to be monogamous is because women were dependent on male utility directly, but more importantly, is something that's always overlooked, is the idea of contraception. So contraception is a huge thing because if you essentially have a baby with a man, any time you have sex, then you're going to want to be a bit more selective.
Sure.
And interestingly, like now we have contraception, and women can work, there's still the term slut that gets thrown around, and that's essentially an outmoded idea where it used to be detrimental if you're a female to be a slut because you
Right.
could get STDs, you could get pregnant, and you would lose
Be a
your man's
burden
ability
to
to
everybody
provide
else.
for you.
You'd
But
be a burden,
but
yeah.
now with condoms and all sorts of contraception, it shouldn't be a bad thing to be a slut. And a
Exactly.
very interesting 2 points I'll bring up on this is that in Australia, prostitutes are less likely to have STDs than the general population because they use condoms 100% of the time. And another interesting statistic is that areas or countries that are repressive of female sexuality have higher levels of violence, suicide, and drug addiction. And that's because they're trying to use drugs as a way to compensate for lack of physical intimacy. And this dynamic of women calling other women sluts is essentially, if you want to put it in blunt terms, it's whores versus sluts. There's women who want to use their sexuality as a covert commodity to extract resources, and then there's women who don't want to use their sex as a commodity and want to have fun with it, that are sluts because they're not retaining the value of female sexuality, because women inherently and socially have a high level of sexual value. That's why there's such money in fashion for women to go out and sell their sexuality as a commodity, and to go against that is to essentially go against the idea of consumerism and hypergamy and things that play into a highly competitive social structure that preys upon men and women living in a state of, I guess, conflict in their interests and not coming into agreements in the way that they're operating. So if, like, women are just as horny as men, but if they acted like it, they'd get socially shamed. They would probably lose money in abstraction because they would have a lower sexual marketplace value, wouldn't be able to secure a man with a lot of resources potentially, and things like that. So yeah, it's very much. I think monogamy is increasingly obsolete. I like the idea of it, but I just don't see how it can really work in a world where you can have, you can meet. It's essentially like that episode of How I Met Your Mother, where Barney just has this phone that doesn't stop ringing with girls' numbers because he puts his phone number up at a football game, and it gets on TV. So everyone essentially has Barney's phone, where it's an endless stream of women, and women have an endless stream of men. So and there's no financial codependency, and unless you have very strong common interests, then I don't see how monogamy could be even a beneficial thing anymore, outside of childbearing at least. Anyways.
Yeah, that's intense, man. You have a pretty deep kind of like you go deep with it. Like you have a pretty like yeah, like some of the stuff you're saying is like totally like new to my brain. Um, yeah, so it's like I'm like registering it right now. Um, yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah. I mean, look, personally, I don't like the idea of my monogamy. Period. Like period. Um, because I just don't like the intention where it's coming from. Far too often when people get into, it's hard for me to call the average marriage or monogamous relationship. It's hard for me to call it love because it seems more like possession. There's always rules and restraints and regulations in place on what the partner that you love so much, what he or she can do. So, you can't go out after midnight, or, don't go out with your friends, or even sexual desire. Let's say you meet somebody somewhere and you like it, and you guys just want to have sex because it's fucking sex, and it's the reason we're all here. I mean, we're all here because of sex. Sex matters. Sex is powerful. We love sex. Maybe it has something to do with the fact that sex is the reason we're all fucking here, literally. Um, but in a monogamous relationship, for the most part, you can't. you have to restrain your sexual desire for this person you may have met. And to me, if you really loved somebody, if you're married and you love each other so much that you had a gigantic fucking overpriced wedding and you signed a contract and you had all these marriage vows and you put a little fucking ring on your finger to talk about how much you love each other, it seems to me that if you really love the partner, you would, oh, I don't know, maybe want them to be happy, them to do what they want to do. Wouldn't you want your partner to go out with their friends if that's what your partner as an individual wants to do that night? Or wouldn't you want your partner to find sexual fulfillment in maybe another woman that he meets somewhere and has a connection with? Or, and you can inverse it, maybe your wife wants to fuck some dude. If you love that person for who they are and what they want and what makes them happy, you would not put restraints and regulations on their behavior. So to me, monogamy is fundamentally about control. It's about low self-esteem. It's about lacking your own sense of contentment, so you try to leech it off your partner and vice versa. So you guys just become this ball and chain that just reinforces each other's misery, which is why there's a 50% divorce rate in this country, part of it at least, in America. Sorry, that's my fucking American egocentric brainwashing kicking in. I actually have this view, and I don't know, maybe, I don't know if you do, but I want to toss this in real quick. I actually have this perception as an American that, you know what, let me not even, that's the fuck, I'm not even going there. So yeah, man, I don't know, that's my view on monogamy. I think it's fundamentally stupid, fundamentally based on egotism and a desire to control people, not because you love them, but because you fucking want to use them. You don't love them, you love to use them.
I said before
Yeah,
in previous videos that monogamy, like, I don't want to say it as a blanket statement, but I think, yeah, sure, there'd be a lot of monogamous relationships based on love, but I think there would also be a lot of monogamous relationships based on fear of loss,
yep.
fear of being
Yeah, I was about
alone.
to say that, yeah.
So
Yeah, like, I'm
it,
not saying you can't have a connection with a person. I'm not saying that you can't like somebody so much that you would want to spend the rest of your life together. And you might be so, you might love each other so much that you may very well not have a desire to be with anybody else, and that's cool, but the thing is that's usually not the case. And in the case where it's not the case, it's a bullshit love relationship.
definitely. So yeah, I guess sexual dimorphism, very interesting topic, and if anyone's interested in any other opinions I have to say on it, there's a video on my channel called Is Russell's Brand of Feminism True? TREW. And I essentially go into a bit more detail with more statistics, a bit more cinematic presentation, and yeah, it took me a good week to put together, so I'd like it if we got a few more
It's a
views.
really good video, guys. That's actually a really good video. I watched it. It's like 40 minutes, right?
Yeah, just under an hour.
It's like a documentary style piece. Really good, guys. Check it out. It actually goes in. 'Cause, Russell Brand, he's like fucking the guru of enlightenment and the revolution and all that shit. But every time I hear him talking about feminism, I just get frustrated because it's such. He's literally like spewing the politically correct, cliched, decades-old pro-feminist lines that are based on mostly bullshit. So yeah, this dude Mason here did a pretty good debunking and pretty entertaining video as well. Definitely check it out. It's on his channel. I definitely recommend it.
Yeah, and there's another video where I asked Peter Joseph from the Zeitgeist movement a question about female oppression and hypergamy, and he gave me a very good answer. I was very happy with it. But he also has the perspective that women are and always have been oppressed, which is just something that I would really like to see people be a bit more realistic about, because, I mean, really, men are the majority of suicide deaths. I could splurt out so many statistics, but I'm bored of going into that so much because it's in my other videos. But yeah, I mean, like, the idea that women are oppressed because they didn't have to submit to labor for, didn't have to work manually strenuous jobs for most of history. Oh, you poor darlings, like, you were so oppressed. You didn't have to fight. You didn't have the opportunity to die in war. We apologize for that. People just have to be a bit less defensive of females and just come to terms with truth. And like I can see the dynamic as well, because there's that male ego where it's like men like to get their sense of self-worth by protecting women, always sticking up for them, being the beautiful white knight in shining armor. But it's not good for men on the collective. I think that's the stop. But yeah, uh, it brings me to another point, like the idea of monogamy versus, I guess, like being a slut or whatever, is the idea of pendulum theory, which is something that I've just been thinking about recently, and still getting my head around it myself. But basically, it's sum it up in a sentence. It's duality is both real and illusory, and perceived opposing forces often generate each other. They are often the cause of each other and cannot exist without each other. And they're often the same thing in a chicken-egg relationship, if that makes sense. So I guess the idea of
Did you say
someone,
duality? Did you say duality? Is that the word you said?
yeah, duality is often it's often real and illusory, and the idea that everything that we perceive as duality is duality, it's not true as well, because a lot of things that are dualistic, how we perceive them, actually have cyclical relationships that
Now,
feed into each other.
what context are you talking about? You're talking about relationships? You're talking about the nature of reality? What are you talking about?
I guess it covers physical versus, it covers almost everything you can think about. So it's like, if your approach to life is, I have to work as hard as I can to succeed, I think it's probably better to say, yes, you have to work as hard as you can to succeed, as long as you find the time to play as hard as you can and rest as hard as you can, because they both have an integral relationship. If you work and then don't have any extrinsic incentive to keep working, like being able to reward yourself with rest and play, then your motivation to keep working hard will decrease over time. So I guess like it's finding a middle ground through two levels of extreme in certain areas of life, like the idea of like going to the gym. If you go to the gym every day of the week and then you don't get much sleep, your body will start to lose mass, because your body puts on muscle when you go to sleep. And if you don't have any days off to rest, your body will start to have muscular dystrophy, where muscle starts to dissolve. So I guess like a book that kind of made me start thinking about things like this was called The Biology of Belief. I think you might have read it before, I'm not too sure.
Yeah, great
But
book.
basically how like reality there's a chicken egg relationship between beliefs, between consciousness and matter, and our perception of the material world influences our consciousness, and our consciousness influences our biology and our behaviors, which influence the external world. And that's, I think it's a very empowering realization, because you realize you're not just some static object in an ocean being washed around and all passive. You have an influence on your surroundings quite a lot. And I think an area that this idea applies to more than anything is the idea of free will versus determinism.
Absolutely.
Because to me, that idea that either one of those exists is ridiculous. Because if you had free will, you'd be able to just jump up into the sky and fly like Superman. It's essentially a denial of, physical reality, where determinism is a denial of conscious reality.
Yes.
And I find like scientism leads towards determinism, and spiritualism leads towards the idea of free will and solipsism. And yeah, so like most things, there's a lot of things that like aren't necessarily true or false if they're dualities, but perhaps a lot of them both are true in certain contexts, depending on how you think of things. Because our perceptions on reality are so limited. it's kind of ridiculous. Like if you all of a sudden could have like infrared vision, if you could all of a sudden have X-ray vision, the entirely like the way we perceive reality would just change dramatically. Even the sense of like time, all people perceive time the same. I don't know. I sometimes like the days seem to just like fly by for me, and other days they seem to go on for
Of
weeks.
course.
And like obviously like flies, insects, if you ever tried to catch one of them, it's pretty hard. They see at a different frame rate per second.
Frame rate.
So the idea of like this reality having like everyone in the same, that's something where I find like working 9 till 5 is insane because who's saying everyone functions at the optimal level working 8 hour week on a 5 day, 2 day off regimen? It's insane. I don't work well like that. I can do like 5 solid good hours a day, then have like 5 hour break and do a few more hours at night. That's
Yeah.
how I operate well. It's based on like my biology, what I eat, my what I'm not too sure of the reasons, but I found school pretty much. I was asleep at my desk for half the duration I was there. I was wondering, Chris, how did you go in school? Did you finish school? Did you drop out of high school and just say, fuck this, I can't stand it? Did you get suspended a lot? Did you get in trouble a lot?
Yeah. Well, in high school, I've always hated school as far as I can remember. Um, I went to college for about 2 years and eventually just dropped out because it was totally irrelevant to my interests. Um, the reason I dropped out was because, well, there was one interesting story. Well, I had been in college for about a year, and I had an English teacher. Um, such a sudden shift of topic. I had an English teacher who was like a feminist. I didn't really, I mean, I always intuitively hated feminism, but I never really thought about it too much. But she was a feminist. Every single assignment that she assigned to us was like feminist bullshit literature stories, like The Awakening and all these just cliched, boring bullshit. And I've actually always liked writing. Like writing has always been my thing. So it's in English class. Anyways, um, I was a great student in her class. I think I'm pretty sure I had an A in the class. The problem is that I had been absent too many times. And one day, the English teacher, she didn't call my name when she was doing the attendance. I'm like, why didn't you call my name? She's like, oh, meet me outside the classroom. So I walked outside. She's like, oh, well, the thing is that I had to fail you from the class because you've been absent too many times. And this has happened to me before in high school. That was a college experience, but it happened to me in high school as well. I had a guitar class. I was really good in guitar class. The fucking guitar teacher failed me, not because I couldn't play the guitar, not because I had an A in that class. I was one of her best students. She failed me because of my fucking attendance. So it's kind of a weird thing because if I can manage an A by being in class less than most students, doesn't that prove that I'm actually a better student because I can still maintain an A while barely spending time in class? Like, if anything, that proves I'm a prodigy or something like that. I'm a genius in the class. So it always baffled me. It's like, why the fuck are you failing me because I didn't go to class if I had an A in the subject matter? Anyway, so yeah, that was a pivotal moment. That was when I I didn't drop out, but I decided to shift careers. I didn't really know what I was going to do in my life at that time, so I just wanted to do what my dad does. My dad's an air traffic controller. He works at the airports and controls the airplanes and shit. So I pursued that for a few years, and then about a year or so, and then I had a side freelance business going on. I was doing freelance gigs and in writing, and that became sustainable enough that I just like, what's the fucking point of college? And I just kind of just dropped out. I didn't have the context yet. I didn't back then when I dropped out, I still kind of thought I was a failure. Like I thought I sucked. I hadn't had my realization yet about the school system. So I dropped out, and then it wasn't until a few years later that I started to have my awakening, thanks to the internet, and I started to realize that school and even a big chunk of college is kind of a fucking joke and a scam. So yeah, I mean that's just one of my fucking school horror stories. I mean I think we all have school horror stories, and I think most of us don't like school. deep down, intuitively, we don't really like the school system, but we kind of become conditioned to accept it over time. And our free will, our willingness to rebel against a system that we know is not intuitively appealing to us, it kind of gets hammered out of us over many years of schooling until we actually start to think we like it. But we only like it because we're now slaves to it. We've just accepted the fact that I can't achieve anything in life unless I get a degree or unless I graduate, which is what the school system tells you. You will amount to nothing if you don't go through our fucking system. Um, and then eventually we kind of just become passive, and I think that we just kind of accept our fate, and I think it's tragic and it's disempowering, and it doesn't give people a sense of optimism. It's based on pessimism. It's based on you can't do what you want to do. You can't pursue your little side passions because, well, how are you going to make money? I remember when I signed up for college, my career path at that time was I was going to try to become like a guitar teacher or something. I was playing guitar, and I went to the college counselor. Here's another little horror story. I went to the college counselor, so she could advise me on what classes to take, and she's like, "What career do you want to do?" I'm like, "I think I want to play guitar." And she's like, "Oh, you don't want to do that. There's no money in that. No, don't do that." So literally, like the advisor at the college is literally trying to convince me to like not pursue what I'm passionate about because it won't make green pieces of paper. Now, yes, there's an economic reality, and you don't want to be naive. You don't just want to, oh, I'm going to do what I love and not consider whether or not you'll be able to survive. But at the same time, the fact is that most of the people who become great guitarists or pursue any of these careers that are unconventional, whether it's an actor or a frickin', geez, I don't even know, a frickin' a director, more creative type avenues. One of the most important qualities you need in order to succeed in those is an extreme level of commitment and dedication to whatever it is you're going to do. And that's the thing, is like, how am I going to cultivate that level of dedication and commitment if even the school, even my own advisor is telling me don't do it? It's all about fear. It's all about it might not work, hence go through the fucking school system and get your little degree that's supposed to be kind of a sense of security in the fucking marketplace. And it ultimately, a lot of times, especially nowadays as the college industry crumbles in America, I don't know what it's like in other countries, it's becoming, the fact is that going the safe route is actually the unsafe route. And this kind of ties back into what you were saying earlier about how technology is changing everything. The school system kind of trains us to be robots. It trains us to obey orders, do what we're told, very mechanistic and rigid. Don't think outside the box. Don't think originally. Just memorize and regurgitate. And the reason that they train us to be like obedient little robots is because they want us to have obedient little robot jobs. Oh, but what happens when real fucking robots are replacing the human robots, the human robotic workers that the economy, many aspects of the economy, utilized, and a lot of it came from the school system. That's arguably what the school system was created for, if you look into the disturbing history of the school system. But when robots, real robots, as technology advances, why is a company going to hire a robotic human worker when they can get an actual robot that doesn't fucking go on pesky little strikes, doesn't ask for extended vacations, doesn't whine about getting a raise, all these things that real humans demand? None of that you have to worry about if you hire robots. So ironically, although the school system was always based on the security of do what you're told and you get a simple, safe, secure job, that's actually the unsafe route because humans are getting weeded out by real robots. In fact, if your only talent is to robotically obey orders, do nothing creative, nothing original, you're gonna get fucking outpriced by robots in the marketplace. And that's dangerous. Dangerous isn't pursuing your passions and your creativity. Dangerous isn't getting to know your neighbors instead of becoming familiarized with sitcom characters. Um, they dangerous is doing what you're told, is being obedient, is being passive, is having your empowerment just ripped away from you. Um, so that's fucking crucial, and that's why I'm so fucking critical of the modern school system. And increasingly, more and more people are starting to realize that this shit ain't working anymore.
Yeah. It's all about obedience. And sorry, would you mind making me large? Because I've been watching your face for a while, and it's hurting my eyes because it glitches quite a lot.
Make you
Uh,
large.
yeah, I think you just have to click my face down the bottom. I'm not too sure how it works.
Let me see. Did
There
that
we
do
go.
anything?
Yeah, it's a bit better, like, because it was pixelated, it's starting to hurt my eyes.
No, it's cool. It's cool. So wait, you're good now? Like it's good?
Yeah, it's cool.
Okay,
Yeah, I was gonna say like it's amazing how obedience is considered a virtue. It's essentially the most powerful tool that tyranny can possibly have, and the idea that doing what you're told is somehow something that should be respected, even if you're not being cognizant in your decisions, is absurd. And a lot of it comes from self-loathing. And like there's a man called Mark Passio. He has a website called What on Earth is Happening. And he
yeah.
talks about a lot of the problems that we face as a society stem from parental abandonment issues. So where we have a culture where there's a lot of single mothers that are told that they can be both a father and a mother to a child, which is impossible. You have a lot of neuroses coming from these homes, and I'm not saying everyone that only has a single mom as a parent is going to be a bad person. I'm not saying that at all. There's a statistical relevance to that. I'm saying like essentially where there's a breaking down of family dynamics where children are not getting the emotional, physical, and other elements of social approval that they need to develop into a smart, caring, empathetic human being. And they're essentially trying to compensate from this lack of parental approval through authority. They are seeking approval from authority, like some kind of child seeking approval from their parent. And that's how the education system operates fundamentally. You do what I say, and I'll give you a sticker. You get a bit older, we'll give you a letter of the alphabet. You go a bit older, we'll give you a fancy certificate with a bit of wax on it that you can call a degree. And it's absolutely it's there to destroy people's autonomy so that people don't have the ability to act without being told what to do. And like you were saying a second ago, one of the largest threats to this whole economic system that we have is the idea of human labor roles being automated,
Yep.
replacing people with robots to do jobs more efficient. And like I recently put up a video yesterday called "Did I Deserve to Fail University or Is College a Scam?" And essentially, like I talk about like my final assignment in architecture for my master's degree was based around essentially implementing existing automated technology to create vertical farms that grows and prepares food on site. So it grows leafy greens and other vegetables on the top level, transports it down to the next level where like Baxter robots are something that has already been invented, working in the kitchen, can prepare food for people automatically with minimal human intervention. And then the next floor down was essentially a floor where bulk food would be sold to customers, kind of like a farmer's market, and then there was an export-import area, so there's a bit of versatility. So essentially minimizing the necessity for human labor while eliminating the need for a lot of transportation from food to come from farms where uh, they're put into packaging, then put into refrigerators and stored. using up all this energy, where if you just grow the food, get it into people's mouths as quick as possible and get rid of the surplus, then you're eliminating a lot of human labor, a lot of refrigeration, transportation, not to mention if you completely change agricultural systems like this on a large scale, all of the pollution from farms caused by rainwater runoff into the water systems, which kills fish and decreases food in those areas, would significantly decrease, because agriculture is the largest contributor to water pollution on the planet, which makes marine life die, so we have less food in abstraction from that as well. And if you eliminate all these inefficiencies simultaneously, like I was trying to do at university, the teachers couldn't even fucking understand what I was trying to say, and they failed my assignment because they couldn't understand it. They were like, one of the teachers was like, well, if you're doing a vertical farm, you're going to need windows on the upper floor. And I was like, no, I got an email from them saying that they need insulation and windows are bad because it doesn't need heat. Heat is bad for these automated vertical farm structures. And they don't take criticism themselves. They can dish it out. Like, you're expected to take all their criticism into consideration. But if you criticize them from an authoritative source that has power over them, instead of accepting it and being like, oh, okay, you've got a point, maybe I'll let you pass, they just get angrier. So I ended up failing, and then I asked if they could reassess it. And instead of making me have a pass, they gave me a lower grade still. They gave me a lower fail, so they're essentially saying, no, fuck you. You are a bitch. And I'm like, I don't really want your approval. I just want this certificate so I can get the fuck out of here and go on with my life. Yeah, the education system is just a joke. Like, I'm 25 years old. I've been stuck in high school, kindergarten, university. Where does it end? Am I not getting paid for my efforts, where there's people that are working at checkouts where the jobs could literally be automated now, contributing nothing, which is what I used to do, used to be a checkout operator. And it really did my head in. I was like, this is like the antithesis of what I stand for, is like doing something a robot can do while putting on a politically correct facade. And I was dying inside, but I'm getting paid, so that's what it comes down to. People value money a lot more than evolution. Like, people are on this planet very much to evolve and adapt, but that goes against our traditionally ingrained values, which are reinforced by people, like, in your daily lives, in your family, from authority, media. And the internet is eroding that fairly rapidly. Hopefully, like, younger people that are under the age of 30, say, start to really, like, recognize, yeah, our older generations don't really have our best interests in heart. Like, they're not there to look out for the young. They're there to, like, parasite off the young.
They're there to fucking retire and fucking watch television for the last 40 years of their life.
Yeah, and then tell our generation to go get a job and stop being lazy. and it's like, yeah, like, people in the baby boomers generation, they retire at like 60. They retired like 20 years ago, and they're living off of government payouts in Australia. And if you're a teacher or a public servant, they get nearly like 70 to 100 grand a year doing nothing.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
It's fucking crazy, bro. Yeah, and on the topic of, the fact that you were your assignment got, whatever, failed. Just talk about ironic. And I commented on your video. You probably read it, but in essence, what I said was that yeah, I mean, the school system doesn't care about new ideas. I mean, this is called basking in reflective glory, burging. It's sports fans do it when they think that they won. Like, well, we won. When the fucking the football player goes and gets the touchdown and your team scores, and the sports fans think that they won and they get a rush off it. It's basking in reflective glory. You're not accomplishing things that make you happy. You're just pretending that you're getting in on the action because your team, which probably isn't even geographically related to where you live, you're just choosing the team that's, fucking, the most popular and famous right now. So So, and the educational system is very similar to that. The educational system is like, to me, it's a similar form where sports fans worship the athletes on the field. The professors and the pseudo intellectuals, the good students, are just worshiping the real geniuses, the ones who were often bad students when they were growing up, the ones who were often dropouts, or the ones who had their amazing intellectual discoveries outside the classroom while they were daydreaming. I mean, this almost always happens this way for a fucking reason. Um, so the school system, they don't even know what it means to be truly intelligent. The professors, because that's the thing, we think that intelligence is memorization and regurgitation for a grade. The thing is that intelligence is not a mechanistic process like that. A lot of times intelligence, the intellectual insights that we praise and admire, the theory of relativity, theory of gravity, quantum mechanics, these ideas often come from intuitive insights. Isaac Newton daydreaming and an apple falls off the tree and he suddenly like, oh, gravity, and just suddenly a spark happens. Similar with Albert Einstein or Charles Darwin. Charles Darwin was, he was a poor student. His father didn't like that he was a failure in class. Charles Darwin decided to go on a fucking voyage, and he just did what he wanted to do. He was immersed in his passion, immersed in his curiosity, and huh?
Spontaneity is like a very important attribute for intelligence. I think that's one of the reasons that like your videos are so interesting to watch, because you just pick up a camera and you just project all of your thoughts into the camera at once. I'm like, wow, that's like, you don't see people do that all the time.
Totally.
And
Yeah.
the education system, if you have any spontaneous motivation, bang, shuts it down.
ADD, ADHD, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. Basically, they're diagnosing being an active student as a disorder and then medicating kids because, God forbid, they want to be a little bit active. God forbid, they want to be a little bit spontaneous, do things that aren't part of the fucking regimented curriculum. It's scary. It's horrifying that there would be a system that would that on one side, school claims to be the creator of intelligence, and yet at the very same time, its actions do the opposite. It intelligence. It condemns the very qualities that create geniuses. There was a groundbreaking study, I think, in the late '90s that still holds water today, where they analyzed the most common traits in geniuses. And the traits in geniuses have absolutely nothing to do with the traits that the modern school system trains into kids. The traits that make a genius are, as you said, spontaneity. The traits that make a genius are questioning authority, not doing what you're told, thinking outside the box, thinking originally. By the way, you can hear me, right? Everything's good?
Yeah, I didn't actually have these plugged in, but I'm not too sure if that matters with the audio.
I haven't noticed a difference. I've been hearing you fine. I don't know if you can hear me fine.
No, I can hear you better now through here.
Cool, man. Cool.
I just didn't know if, yeah.
All right, cool, cool.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, so the qualities that they found in geniuses have nothing to do with what school teaches. Thinking outside the box, thinking for yourself, questioning authority, questioning current intellectual dogmas. Like in your case, I mean, God forbid you posit an assignment that has groundbreaking new ideas in it. And of course, school doesn't teach those genius qualities. School teaches the opposite. It teaches don't think for yourself. Don't question authority. Do what you're told. Don't think originally. Just regurgitate what some other original thinker 200 years ago came up with, and then hope you get a good fucking grade. Schools are the literal antithesis of intelligence because all intellectual discoveries originate in the mind, not in textbooks, not in classrooms. You have to think originally to ever discover something new that's worthy and has value and can actually affect people's lives. I mean, we don't admire Albert Einstein because he fucking went to school and got an A memorizing what past physicists came up with. We admire Einstein because he actually came up with something original. He actually came up with
Yeah.
something new. And then that theory radically transformed our understanding of physics. I mean, look, child genius Jacob Barnett. This is a child genius. At the age of 15, he's teaching college courses to adults. He's in the field of astrophysics. This kid at the age of 3 was, without ever stepping foot in a classroom, without even opening a textbook, at the age of 3, he was already pioneering fucking astrophysics. A child genius, child prodigy. He gave a TED Talk. And in the TED Talk, he said that if you want to be a genius, if you want to truly be intelligent, you have to, this is a quote, stop learning, start thinking. And what he meant was that, and he gave examples. He said that Isaac Newton, during the when he was at Princeton University, I'm pretty sure it was. Isaac Newton was at Princeton University, and the plague came. It was either Princeton or Stanford, one or the other. And there was a plague, and so Isaac Newton couldn't go to college anymore. He had to basically stay cramped up in his home, avoiding fucking the plague. Well, it was during that time that he came up with a bunch of crazy. He came up with calculus. He came up with like a bunch of crazy new fields of math just to like answer a question he had. Well, he wasn't in a fucking classroom. He wasn't reading out of textbooks. He wasn't memorizing what past geniuses came up with. He was creating new shit. He was thinking originally. Similar thing happened with Albert Einstein. Albert Einstein, he consistently was failing college at a time. He couldn't continue to pass college. And so he quit that for a while. He went to go work at a patent office. It was while he was working at the patent office, kind of just like doing little manual labor there, kind of daydreaming, thinking about things. That's when he came up with the crucial ideas that changed, and that he's praised for. He's regarded for in the history books today. So, you know, consistently the geniuses that we praise and learn about in school. Hang on, my cat is like fucking going absolutely. Could you hear that little fucker?
Yeah.
What a fucking little. All right, give me just 12 seconds so I can let him out of the room because he's going fucking crazy. Hold up.
Yeah, you're good.
Come on, bro. Come on, you fucker.
Yeah, so all of these people you were mentioning, right? They're all people that didn't follow curriculum, and weren't motivated by, I guess, approval from authority.
I'm back.
Yeah, so like all these people you mentioned, there were, I guess, people that didn't rely on the approval from authority to validate their findings. And what I'm about to say right now is a bit skeptical, it's not a watertight argument, but okay, 95% of men are responsible for innovation, and at the moment there are huge, like, politically driven schemes to get more women in education than men. In England, there's universities that literally require 50% of the students to be female, but they don't require at least 50% female. It's just so if 100 applicants apply for the same degree, 10 of them are women, and 90 of them are men, and they have 20 positions. All of the women will get in, most of the men won't, regardless of whether or not the men are more suited and qualified to get in. And I think part of this comes down to obedience, because through our evolutionary biology, women have always been submissive to men because they're physically weaker and they've been dependent on men. So women are all a bit more of a tool that can be used by authority. Out of all of the crimes that happen, out of all the abuse cases that happen, and even like little things, women tend to go to authority to get them to solve problems a lot more than men. I got suspended in high school for winking at a girl, and he told on me and I was suspended for sexual harassment. And what you can see is that there's this dynamic where innovation is being stifled and obedience is being put on a pedestal and prioritized, because innovation is a massive threat to the current system that would crumble if automation took over traditionally human roles and essentially make it so that people don't have enough jobs to keep the whole to have the money to keep the whole consumer economy going. So the incentive to, I guess, keep innovation limited exists, and I'm not sure if it's like done on a extremely intentional level, or if it's just people being naive and ignorant about certain things. And of course, my theory could just be like a little bit like, like I said, it's fairly skeptical. I think it's true, but I think there's some level of legitimacy to the idea that schools want people to be obedient, and by encouraging more female participation, they get more obedience. Something like 60 or 70% of uni graduates are female, and most of these females aren't in fields that have technical legitimacy. They're not in technical roles like computer programming or engineering as much as men. They go to more, I guess, social roles. Yeah. So things that essentially perpetuate narratives that are politically expedient when it comes down to it. And you need people that are obedient to perpetuate your narrative. So if you want to go get a degree in humanities, you're going to have to agree with the authorities and what they say most likely, and keep that narrative going because there's money in it. Just like everything. Like Anita Sarkeesian made $160,000 for 2 YouTube videos based on how like sexist video games are that she hasn't played. Like, give me a break. It's like me literally saying, video games are speciesist. We're always portraying turtles as the bad guy in Mario games, and we're always portraying them as kidnappers, and this is unfair to the turtle population of the planet. It's absolutely insane. I think she should be put in jail for fraud. I'm against the whole idea of prison, but when it comes to that, lock her up, make an example.
Make an exception for her.
Yeah.
Holy shit, man. Yeah, that's, wow. Yeah, man, that's a fucking, Anita is a funny character, to say the least, man. She's like the worst thing feminism has ever birthed out. Or like, literally, I don't even know what to say about her, man. But yeah, man, I mean, that's an interesting theory that the feminization of schools ties into why obedience. I'm not sure about that because I haven't thought about it enough, honestly. But there's something sounds legitimate about it. You know, I've heard for a while that schools are very feminine in their structure and their approach. I tweeted out the other day. Basically, what I said was that there's a direct correlation between wealth disparity in a society and the formation of school systems. It's pretty consistent, you know. Ooh, that's a tough one to articulate because that's still kind of cutting edge in my mind. But I won't go down that rabbit hole because I'll just sound retarded. But yeah, dude, yeah, it's interesting, man. Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, like, I've always hated school. I reckon from my first day, I knew something was off. I couldn't quite put my finger on it. The amount of times I got suspended for seemingly innocent things. I got suspended for moving a shoe that was under my desk, and for winking at a girl for sexual harassment. And then a guy comes up to me during PE and he hit me in the head with a baseball bat. I fell to the ground. He had to sit out for 10 minutes. So it's like, where is like any justice in this environment? Doesn't exist.
Wow.
It's like chaos. And I think like you always hear about like all these human rights organizations. Oh, we want gender equality. We want racial equality. But what about ageism? Like, why are you stuck with people for 13 years because they popped out of their mum's vagina at approximately the same time you popped out of your mum's vagina? That's the basis of how students are organized in school.
Yep.
And it's based on galactic age, how many times the Earth revolves around the sun since you were born, instead of biological, spiritual, intellectual age. Where it's like you can have a 4-year-old like that genius you mentioned before, who's light years above the rest of his class. Yeah. Imagine if you could get like boys like that together to learn together and accelerate each other's learning exponentially, and you would have a lot more intelligent people.
They thought he had the school system, the school experts, the school professionals labeled him as autistic or having ADD. They wanted to put him in special ed classes because they couldn't comprehend that the reason that he wasn't fucking watching Barney, the reason that he was too busy daydreaming all day is not because he was retarded. It was because he was like literally he was probably literally like astral projecting to the edge of the universe and like fucking like weaving the cosmos together in his mind. He was literally pioneering astrophysics in his fucking head. Okay, to him, there's one scene, because I read the book, his mother wrote a book about, raising him, and there's one part where, he supposedly has autism, and they're at a birthday party with all the kids, and they had Rover, the big red dog, whatever the fuck his name is, the stupid mascot, the kid's mascot, the big red dog. What is it? Clifford the dog. Fucking Clifford the dog shows up in a mascot suit at this birthday party, and all the kids are like, yeah, it's fucking Clifford! They're like running crazy and going crazy like the normal kids do. And Mr. Little Jacob Barnett was completely uninterested, and the mother was like, what's wrong with my kid? She literally thought there was something wrong with her kid because the kid wasn't interested in some dumb fucking Clifford the red dog mascot. Well, it turns out that again, he was just pondering in crazy math, and that's why he wasn't interested. So yeah, it's bizarre.
It's almost like it's insane that children watch children's shows in a way. Like I don't think if parents do what they want to do, right? But I'm an uncle at the moment. My sister has like a 6-month-old baby, and she likes to watch Pingu. I'm like, yeah, cool, whatever. But I was thinking like if I had a child, I'd make it watch documentaries, man. Like it would learn to talk, it would learn all this stuff quicker. But it's like why do people assume children aren't capable of learning? That's what they're designed to do. They look at reality and they sponge in data as fast as they can. That's why all they can do.
Kids are known for their brains are like sponges. That's why you're more likely to learn more than one language if you learn the language when you're a young kid. Yeah, I mean, frickin', damn it, I don't want to forget what I was about to say, but, yeah, what were you just saying, man? I was going to say something really fucking important.
The idea of, I guess, children watching children's shows.
Okay, yeah, totally. Norm. Yeah, totally, yeah, I mean, I've said it before on my channel. Treating children like children reinforces their childishness. I totally believe this. And when you have a newborn and you put them on a healthy diet of these dumb fucking little cartoons, people think that the only way a child is going to learn is if you drop down to their level. You have to come down to their level, and then that's the only, like, it's almost like a ladder. They think of it like a ladder, and if the first rung on the ladder is too high for you to reach, then the kid will never move upwards. That's kind of the way they see learning. But in reality, it's just not the way it is. I mean, look, learning a language is incredibly difficult. I mean, if you and I tried to learn a language right now, it's going to require a shit ton of hours. It's going to be really difficult. Kids, before they step foot in a classroom, already have really well-developed language skills. All right, pretty well developed. They can really communicate pretty well by the age of 4, 4.5 before they step foot in a fucking classroom. So if they have the capacity to learn a language at that age, what makes you think they can't comprehend, like you said, maybe a documentary? Why do we think we have to fucking stoop down to their level in order to get them to learn? To me, it just retards children. Giving them cartoons.
Literally, yeah.
It literally stunts their growth, which is disturbing because, I mean, we're so steeped in a culture that stoops down to the child's level. Personally, I have a theory. It's a bit of a sinister outlook, but I think parents deliberately stunt their children's growth because a lot of parents have kids for emotional reasons. They have kids because they want to get a sense of fulfillment by having their kids. And the longer the kid stays a kid, the more the parent will have the kid around, and
Yeah.
it'll take longer for the kid to leave the nest, to grow up and fucking leave. So I think a lot of parents kind of subconsciously they want to infantilize their children as long as possible. They want to postpone growing up as long as possible. That's a pretty fucked up thing because parents all claim that they love their kids so much and it's unconditional. To me, if you love somebody unconditional, it kind of goes back to the marriage thing we were saying earlier and monogamy. If you really loved your partner, you want them to be free. You want to remove the chains off them. You want them to grow wings and fly and do whatever the fuck they want. You don't want to hold them back. And we live in a society where the true definition of love, which should be wanting others to be free and empowered, has been distorted and perverted by this possessive, golem-like, creature-like ownership, possession, all stemming from people's sense of insufficiency or unfulfillment in their own lives, and so they leech on to other people. And when you're dependent on somebody like a drug, you don't want them to leave you. You don't want them to go away, so you want to cripple them. Subconsciously, subliminally, you want to cripple them so they stay around as long as possible. And it's sick that love, something as important as love, as the idea of people having the capacity to be, at least to a certain degree, not completely selfish, but at least have interest in other people's lives, to think that the very concept of love would be so distorted, so perverted into this golem-like thing is it's really an indicator of the world that we live in nowadays. So yeah, I mean, I definitely believe that treating children like children reinforces their childishness, and you don't stoop down to the child's level. And one thing I've noticed in my own life is that I used to do that with kids. Like if I was like I had an ex-girlfriend or something, she had like little siblings, or if I was at a family gathering and there were little kids there, my idea was always, oh, if I want to connect with these kids, I have to stoop down to the kid level. So I would talk like in a high-pitched voice, and I would be all simple-minded and shit, because my belief was, oh, they're just dumb kids. They can't connect with an adult. And you know what? I used to treat kids that way, and you know what? They wouldn't respect me. They think that I was just some stupid little They would literally think of me as a clown. Oh, look, it's that idiot who likes to entertain me. Let me annoy him and tell him to come look at my toys or whatever. In recent years, I've changed my approach. I do not sacrifice my maturity, my intellect, my adulthood at all around kids, and the kids are like fascinated. The kids are like, oh my God, look how cool this empowered this work of art of an adult human being, and they look up and they just want to be like you. And so and then that kind of ties into the treating children like children. Like if you stoop down to a child, what do they have to look up to? What do they have to aspire to? They ain't got shit.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, why is it so normal for people to like pretend to be someone else around children? I even remember like adults behaving like that when I was a kid, and I found it kind of like I took it personally. I was like, does this person think I'm a fucking moron? Like, honestly, it's like, why are you treating me like this? I can talk. I can do pretty much anything you can do besides, drive a car.
You know what's really disturbing is that if you watch the mainstream media, I don't know about it in your country, but here in America, if you listen to the way that they talk to you as they read off their teleprompters, more often than not, the tone of voice that a lot of the news anchors have is the same type of voice that people have when they talk to kids, like kids. They talk to you like you're some fucking infant who can't handle reality, which is, of course, why they don't tell you the reality. They tell you complete fucking lies in the mainstream media. So it kind of tells you, it's kind of proof of how infantilized everybody is, because everybody was raised by parents who treated their children like children, and reinforced their childishness, and then they grew up, and they never really did grow up because they never aspired. And I don't want to have like this kind of arrogant, like, yeah, you got to be a mature adult, because I do think there's great power in the spontaneity of childishness, the willingness to play and be free-spirited. But there is such a thing as also being grounded and real about reality, and that is powerful. And it's funny because that's just, isn't that the antithesis of the mainstream media? It's not reality. It's a fucking delusion.
Yeah, there's a video by a YouTuber called Thinking Ape TV, and it's called "The Price of the Lie," and it talks about how all the most popular YouTubers out there that have like millions of subscribers, they're all personalities that have these faces like this, and they're all ecstatic all the time. They're just putting on an act. Everything's great, and all it means to essentially to appease people is to be phony and to lie to them and to continue to perpetuate that lie. And
Yep.
like, there's people that can recognize it and use it to their advantage. I find like, yeah, I recognize it, but I would die inside if I behaved like that.
Me
Like,
too, bro.
all the time, I would be like, oh my god, like, what am I becoming?
I know.
But it's essentially, yeah, it comes down to political correctness, keeping people in an infantilized state. Oh, you don't want to look at this part of reality and this part of your life because it might make you temporarily uncomfortable. It might even like shatter your worldview and your day-to-day life. And that's something that most people aren't really taught to do, aren't encouraged to do whatsoever. And it's kind of like you were saying before, like, what is intelligence? It's kind of like, it's a lot of things, and one of them is like being able to understand, like, reality in a certain way, and then also having the ability to just smash and reform that understanding, where
Yep.
people kind of get these ideas stuck in their head and they never challenge it, so it's not malleable. It's just on a tangent that's slowly creeping away from truth because
Yep.
they haven't smashed it and reformed it to align with new understandings.
Yeah, I define the word intelligence very fundamentally and very specifically. I've got a new book coming out, by the way, any listeners who are listening. It's called Success Without School, Think Outside the Classroom. I'm very proud of what I've accomplished so far. I'm not done with the book, but I almost am, and I'm really putting in the work. I want this shit to be fucking incredible. But I do come up with a very fundamental definition of intelligence, and this is it. The only rational definition of intelligence is the capacity to actualize one's own interests. That's the only definition of intelligence I can think of. Because you know what? If you go to school for 12 years, you're a straight A student, and you memorize a bunch of topics that you had no interest in, and then you graduate, and you're never going to use those fucking topics, to me, that's an idiot. Okay? If you hated it while you were learning it, and when you get out of school, you're never going to fucking use it, that's a moron. That's a complete idiot to me. It doesn't actually make you intelligent. The context within which you pursue a certain type of intelligence, whether it's, physical intelligence as a basketball player, knowing how to fucking make the three-point shots, or the creative intelligence of being a creative writer, or the more like mechanistic intelligence of being good at math. No matter which one you do, the context within which you pursue those types also determines whether or not it's intelligent. So just because you're a straight A student, got good grades, learned a bunch of shit, doesn't actually make you smart. It really doesn't, because if you end up out of high school and you don't know what you're going to do with your life, and you wasted so many years doing stuff that literally has no use outside of school, that's stupid. It really is just stupid. Like, okay, maybe we can pat you on the back. Oh, you have good memorization skills. You learned the quadratic formula and all this shit. Good job. I mean, hey, that's not easy. You had to study a lot of hours. But if it's literally useless to you, because most people never use most of what they learned in grade school. It's just a fact. And most of us forget that shit. It's not smart. But on the other hand, I'll give you like an example. If you take a straight A student and you drop him off on a deserted island, there's nobody there. What he learned in school is pretty much it may not be useless. There might be a couple things he learned, but if you take another person who, I don't know, take Survivor Man. I don't know if you know about the show Survivor Man over there in Australia.
No.
It's basically a guy who goes out into like the woods and like survives for 3 days straight, and he knows how to fucking like build a fire and catch fish and filter water and build a shelter and all this shit. You take Survivor Man, you put him in a deserted island, he's fucking Albert Einstein, genius. He is the smartest man in the world because he has what it takes to actualize his interest, which in that case, it's survival. But the straight A student on a deserted island is fucking useless. So the point is that the context within which you pursue certain forms of intelligence also affects whether or not what you pursued is really a smart thing to pursue in the first place. So the only rational definition of intelligence is the capacity to actualize one's own interest. Whether you want to be a Broadway dancer, good for you. Be a Broadway dancer. If you can be a Broadway dancer and you make $70,000 a year and you love what you do and you're fulfilled and you have a house and you have access to health care, to me that's a genius. She's a genius in the school of life. In the school of life, where we all pretty much unanimously agree the point of life is to find a sense of contentment or happiness, she's a fucking genius because she's fucking happy as shit. She does what she loves, and she makes enough money to sustain herself in a way that she likes. That's a genius. Who the fuck ever said that a genius can only be a straight A student? Or a genius can only be somebody who memorizes and regurgitates a bunch of shit they'll fucking never use. Or that a genius is only in the 6 subjects you learn in school. Okay? I mean, there are basketball players. You're going to tell me that a basketball player who, loves his sport, who knows how to dribble the ball while assessing the chess game of offense, defense, dynamics on the court, and then he shifts to the left, he jumps in the air, and he fucking tosses that, orange sphere into the fucking net for a 3-point shot in the last 3 seconds of the game and wins it. Okay, you're going to tell me that that guy is not a genius on the court because he didn't graduate from high school and he was drafted to the NBA before he finished school? I mean, just because he didn't finish school doesn't mean that he's not a genius in his own way. I mean, Albert Einstein himself said it. Albert Einstein said, quote, "If you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it will live its whole life believing that it is fucking stupid." He didn't say fucking, but believing that it is stupid. And if you want to make that quote more practical to the basketball player analogy I just made, the basketball player analogy would be, if you judge a basketball player by his ability to get straight A's in school, if you judge a basketball player by his ability to do well in math class, then he'll live his whole life believing that he's a fucking idiot. So the context within which you learn things also affects whether or not it's really an intelligent thing to learn. And fundamentally, true intelligence is the capacity to actualize your own interests.
I think I generally agree with the definition. There's a few things I can bring up though that kind of like, I guess, challenge it a little bit. Like the idea of, say, like if your job or your drive is associated with, say, like serving authority. So it's like, I'm a policeman, I'm going to be the best policeman. And then you go out and you be the best policeman according to the authorities that dictate what makes a good or a bad policeman. Then you're essentially, I guess, you're enabling yourself to do what you want to do, and you're reaping the benefits yourself. But if you're a cop that's essentially going out tasering like 13-year-old children for drinking or whatever, and then on a micro scale they might be intelligent.
That's what I'm talking about.
The macro level of like social awareness. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, arguably, you could still say that it's not intelligent because there are certain repercussions to that kind of behavior. It's arguable that although the cop might get away with it now, that kind of abuse, tasing a kid, potentially killing some kid, because tasers do sometimes kill people, that might be the seed for some fucking revolution 5-10 years down the line. Everything kind of pieces together and plants little seeds of influence in the fucking butterfly effect that is social dynamics. So yeah, I mean, I don't think that contradicts my definition of intelligence. It just depends on the context. So yeah, I mean, when I say that intelligence is the capacity to actualize one's own interests, um, on a short-term scale, a cop who goes out there and bulldozes through the world, um, he might be getting away with it at first, and who knows, he might get away with it for his whole life. But definitely, my definition is for the individual. It's not from collective perspectives. It's pretty much for the individual, how the individual chooses to live his life. It is kind of a just worry about yourself perspective. Um, but it is arguable that it's not necessarily intelligent to to act in a certain way that creates enemies. So honestly, I'm not necessarily sure I would categorize that as intelligent. You know, the cop example, I wouldn't even call that intelligent, because further down the line, even though he might get away with it for now, you know, for example, you had the Mike Brown case. You know, you shoot some black kid, whether or not it was a just situation, I don't know, but you shoot some black kid, you're going to have to deal with some crazy fucking repercussions, i.e., people rioting on the fucking streets forever, increased mistrust in police, etc. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's all about, I guess, like coming into harmony with the environment around you, whether that
Yeah,
environment's a
it's
football
hard to
field
call
or
it's hard to call a cop behaving that way intelligent. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of cops who were fucking pissed off that that this guy shot Mike Brown because it made. I mean, and hey, the cop who shot Mike Brown had to go through a bunch of repercussions. You know, he had to go to court. His reputation might have been ruined. It is ruined. He might not be able to be a cop ever again. Um, so I wouldn't say that that even qualifies as intelligent because actualizing your own interests includes not fucking up down the road, not doing things that'll backfire and make your life harder down the road. Like intelligence isn't just what actualizes your interests now. It includes your interests down the road in the long term. And if you're trying to live a long life, you don't want to create enemies because that shit can only last so long. You want it. If you start just creating a bunch of enemies, you're going to die by the age of 20. If you just go through life killing people and tasing people and fucking people over unjustly, like it's just not a smart path to take. So I wouldn't even categorize that as intelligent, because you're not actualizing your own interest if you're behaving in such a way that ends up backfiring your own interest down the line.
yeah, definitely. I mean, I've even heard that with like policemen, there's certain tests they have to do in the United States where they undergo psychological evaluations, and if they essentially pass the test, it means that they have a certain degree of psychopathy, which I'm not saying is a good or a
Yes.
bad thing either, but like being able to emotionally detach from your role. And I guess like that's kind of like it might have some advantages that I'm not aware of, but at the same time it's kind of a tool for authority. I see like the belief in authority as a religion itself. The idea that that people don't have to validate authority, more or less, that people don't have to validate their superiority. It's just assumed because of their badge or whatever. I see that as a religion. Like it's like the idea of teachers even. That's like the idea of a teacher is a one-way dynamic where you learn, they teach, top down. Whereas like really, isn't two humans interacting more beneficial for the learning of both people if there's a interaction where the teacher can learn from the student and vice versa, so that instead of all being teachers and students, everyone's just teachers and students.
Totally. Of course, for me, it's not a matter of ignorance in the school system. It's not like they don't know what they're doing. To me, it's just the teacher-student dynamic was very deliberate. I mean, if you look at the history of the modern school system, this is something else I talk about in my new book. The history of the modern school system, it's arguably it was designed and implemented by very powerful, wealthy industrialists who basically ran the country during the late 1800s, early 1900s. We're talking about the Rockefellers, we're talking about Carnegies. I mean, these people were robber barons. Just they had so much goddamn wealth they can control the fucking planet almost. Um, these were the people who implement. Yeah, I love this little fucker. These were the people who implemented the modern school system. These were the people who put the funding into the modern school system. So to me, the idea that the school system is based on authority, it's based on teacher telling the students what to fucking do. Um, God damn it. That's exactly what you would expect. Because the point of the school system, from the perspective of these ultra-wealthy industrialists, was to create a system that trains young students to be very obedient workers, specifically in the industrial age and factory workers. So the fact that teachers are just kind of up top, the authority figure, dictating and telling them what to do, that's just all part of the deliberate design and training of students so that when they grow up, they don't become competitors to these robber barons, to these ultra-wealthy economic interests. They don't want competitors. They want good, obedient little fuckers who will work for them but won't rock the boat. That's why I've said before, school is not about making you as good as you can be. It's about making you as good as they want you to be. And they only want you
Yeah.
good enough that you're productive, but not good enough that you question them and become a competitor. So so yeah, I mean, it's not a coincidence, bro. It's very deliberate. That's why the school system is like that. Um, it's a dark journey down the history of the school system.
Yeah, it originated from Prussia, where it was designed to create obedience over anything else. It was designed to feed their military system, to make soldiers. And it's there's a good lecture I heard a few years back. I think it was a Zeitgeist Movement lecture called History of Coercive Education by James Phillips. And then that introduced me to the what's the name? The old lady who talks
Charlotte
about,
Iserbyt.
yeah, Charlotte Iserbyt or something, yeah. So I read part of her book and like branched off into a few other books and podcasts and whatnot. And it's really kind of like really interesting how education has formed to essentially serve the elites at the top, just like you say. And yeah, definitely, like, if you're pumping out students, like for instance, architecture, right? I study architecture. So if they create students that have more skills than current practicing architects, then they're rocking the boat. They don't want to do that too much. Like in a 5-year degree, I could be a really good architect by now. Except a lot of the assignments that they gave us were completely irrelevant to architecture. I had to do in 3 years in a row, I had to do a book that was 50 pages long on plant species. And I was just like, what the fuck am I doing? So essentially, they're getting you to do what you're told. And like shit, I was like, I don't really know what else I'm gonna do if I don't study, because in Australia I at least get paid like from the government while I study. So it's essentially like a loan where I get the money up front and then I pay back the student loan like once I earn enough money. But yeah, like education, if I could do it all over again, I would stop going to school in year 10 or wherever it is in your country where you can just drop out legally and essentially get a job that allows you to have a life on the side. So I'd like to work like 25 hours a week,
Of course.
save my money, don't spend shit of that money on women, and essentially just
Damn
invest
right.
in yourself. And another huge thing is like running a car. It's like the dumbest thing I ever did. I ran a car for like 6 or 7 years after school to now, and it was just a bloody black hole for my wallet.
Oh
And
yeah,
I
totally.
think about it, and it's just like probably like 25 to 30 grand just like gone.
Just get on a
Probably a
fucking
lot more
bike.
than that even.
Get on a
Yeah.
fucking bike, stay fit, burn fat, not oil. I have a quote right here. This is a quote from the first mission statement of Rockefeller's General Education Board in 1906. This is from Rockefeller, his Education Board, 1906. Quote, "In our dreams, people yield themselves with perfect docility to our molding hands. The present educational conventions fade from our minds, and unhampered by tradition, we work our own goodwill upon a grateful and responsive folk. We shall not try to make these people or any of their children into philosophers or men of learning or men of science. We have not to raise up from among them authors, educators, poets, or men of letters. We shall not search for embryo great artists, painters, musicians, nor lawyers, doctors, preachers, politicians, statesmen, of whom we have ample supply. The task we set before ourselves is simple. We will organize children and teach them to do in a perfect way the things their fathers and mothers are doing in an imperfect way." There you go.
It's kind of scary.
Oh, that's only the beginning, bro. Oh, man, I have another quote for you, actually, now that I'm on this subject. I'll show it to you right now. Disturbing stuff, man, disturbing stuff. These are the people who who established the modern school system. Got this for you right here. Here you go. This is a quote from Elwood P. Cubberley. He was a huge influence in the modern school system during the early 1900s. In 1905, he said, "Schools are to be factories in which raw products, children, are to be shaped and formed into finished products, manufactured like nails, and the specifications for manufacturing will come from government and industry."
Sounds about right. Sounds about right, and that's why we are where we are now.
Yep, you got that right, bro. That is disturbing, man. That is absolutely shocking, man.
Well, yeah, like in my recent video, did I deserve to fail university? I used some of the teachers' feedbacks, and like I can't believe some of the things they write. Like it astounds me. Like I presented a poster with more text than all of the other students, and one of my feedback sheets at the end said, "You didn't have enough supporting text in your poster. All the other students had less than me." And another criticism said, "The beauty of food from your design." So I go into the criteria. I'm like, beauty of food, nothing in the criteria for it. So you just essentially, they can say anything and get away with it, and no one wants to hold them accountable. No one at the university, because most students don't want to rock the boat at university.
Of course not.
So they just want to suck the teachers' cocks
I once failed an assignment, a writing assignment, because the teacher said I wrote too much. I was in English class, and the assignment was to come up with your own creative short story. I loved writing, so I wrote like a 20-page story. Again, 20 pages. I've never seen a novel that's 20 pages long. Novels are at least like 80, 100 pages. So as far as I was concerned, 20 pages is a fucking short story. All right? But apparently she probably only expected, because she probably assumes most students hate writing, so they would probably only write like a page or two. I walked in there with 20 pages. She gave me a D. Maybe she may have given me an F. She may have failed me on the assignment. Not because the writing was bad, not because the story was bad, but because I wrote too much. It's like, if the point of the writing class is to fucking show that I'm a good fucking writer, why would writing a ton of good writing indicate that I failed the fucking assignment? Because the point isn't to fucking write. The point is to see whether or not I obey her fucking orders. And her order was to write a fucking short story. I failed because I didn't fucking do what I was told. I failed because I wasn't obedient. And that's just one fucking example of this shitty, demonic, fucked up system.
And a short story, that's not even an objective kind of guide. A short story. 20 pages is pretty short. Like, oh no.
Yes. I mean, 20 pages is short. And you know what? It was 20 pages, on one side of the printer paper. So it was really probably just it was probably like 10 pages of standard novel book. That's a short fucking story. I don't even know, man. That was just so fucking annoying. And of course, I didn't really do anything. I was just like, okay.
Yeah, it releases like a interesting array of emotions. Like sometimes you can just be sitting there and you'll be so annoyed at say like, a grade or something if you don't get a grade you expect, and just have absolutely nothing you can do, and getting angry will just make the situation worse. It's got to a point now where I kind of just laugh at it. I'm like, are you guys serious? Like, is this like a practical joke? Like you actually have no idea how ridiculous you seem to me. Like you're giving students credits and distinctions for hand drawing buildings that really didn't show a lot of the structural integrity of the building or try and implement any new technology into it. And I provided like really good presentation quality work, innovative, and they're like, nah, it's not up to our standards. Like, it's insane, and it's kind of, I don't know. It's like part of me just wants to be like, all right, fuck it, I'm gonna go get a bar job and essentially just never have to worry about a mortgage or anything. I'm just gonna party away my youth and not even bother trying. But then the other part of me is like, all right, I'll keep trying.
It's sad because there's so much money, like you said. I mean, you're currently being paid to go to school. That's part of like the incentive. And it's so hard to like, get on your own 2 feet. Like, okay, maybe you don't go to school, and instead you just focus your intellectual interest on your YouTube channel. But building a YouTube channel, at least for me and a lot of people, takes a fuck ton of time and energy, and it barely pays off, financially. So it's like it's frustrating because this like the world isn't structured in such a way to support people in what's more important. I mean, if school claims to be that it's about fostering and harvesting the intellectual future of humanity, and yet the guy who at least has the willingness to think outside the box and come up with new things, he gets fucking demonized and ostracized from the system. And then then you're at this point where like, oh, maybe I'll just get a bar job.
Yeah.
So, and it's like, oh wow, I mean, it's almost like they don't want you to be smart. It's almost like they de-incentivize it. It's just completely fucking backward. That's I was telling you about when I dropped out of college. I had that experience with the English teacher who failed me because I wasn't in class enough. There was also one time where back then I was reading like giant fantasy novels, like this fucking thick, like these fucking bricks. And she would be in class, reading us these infantile, stupid feminist stories. And instead, I was just at the front of the class reading these thick fucking fantasy novels. And one time she got pissed off at me because I was reading it. She's like, close the fucking book. And, yeah, I mean, it's like, I'm here reading books that are probably at a reading level way beyond your stupid fucking feminist stories. Okay? My ability to write, it's hard to tell where you get your talents from when you spend your whole life in the school system. That's kind of the annoying thing, is that because everybody is in school, we assume that school is responsible for every fucking insight of genius. We have trouble separating what the true cause of genius is. But for me, what made me a good writer, something that I wanted to pursue and excel at, was that one day I was in middle school and I just said, I like this writing stuff. I'm going to start doing it. You want to know how I became a good writer? Not by paying attention in English class. I looked at my favorite authors, their books, and I just started emulating their writing style. And then as I began to enhance my skills, I started to be able to think outside the box and kind of cultivate my own style. And that's how it happened. I took it upon myself. I had an inspiration, and I was driven for my own interest in that craft, and I went after it. I wasn't doing it for fucking grades. I was doing it because I wanted to pursue that. And that's when my writing skills really started to shoot through the fucking roof. So it's funny because I'm there in class and I'm reading this fantasy book, and these are the kinds of books in general that gave me my incredible writing skills, my writing skills that I'm really good at. And this lady is getting angry at me because I'm reading a book when those are the places where I got the inspiration from to become a good writer. So it's just like, it's not about learning in these fucking schools, man. It's about obedience. It's about subservience. It's really hard to accept that because the propaganda is so geared in the direction of schools are for learning, schools are for this, and schools are
Yeah,
for that. And then, but when you look at the subtleties, when you look at the actions, which always speak louder than fucking words and rhetoric, you see what the true purpose of school is, and it basically has nothing to do with fostering true intelligence, true originality, true genius, true thinking outside the box.
definitely. And I've experienced the opposite of what we're talking about now as well, where a lot of the time with assignments, I'll just try and get them over and done with. And I even had an assignment in my master's degree where we had to hand up an abstract model. And I got a piece of plastic, sprayed it with oil, spray paint, wrapped it in Glad wrap, and handed up this piece of shit. And they gave it like a credit. And it took like 20 minutes. A 20% assignment got a credit. And that annoyed me as much as failing an assignment I tried in. Like, I was actually genuinely annoyed that they gave me a good grade because I was taking the piss out of it. Because I decided I want to probably drop out of that course. So I was not really planning on continuing with it anyway, but I was like, I'll just sand this up, whatever. And then they passed me, and I was like, oh my god, what is going on in this system? And you're right, you're right. It's just like education and learning is the cover story. It's programming, programming, programming.
Yep, yep. Intellectual training is a cover story. The true purpose of school is behavioral training. Hard to accept that. It's hard to believe, but it's true, and it all makes sense when you look at the nature and the structure of the modern world. I mean, you know, you're into like the Zeitgeist movement and the Venus Project and all that stuff. We live in a very hyper-competitive world, and you know, the schools and you know, the fact that there's such an abysmal failure in creating empowered, smart people who can think for themselves and are just like decent people. And the fact that schools seem to be doing the opposite, creating slaves who can't think for themselves, it all makes sense when you see the bigger picture. Oh, we live in a hyper-competitive world, and ultra-wealthy people fund the schooling system because they want kids to be as good as they want them to be when they become workers for them. So it's like, oh, okay, I get it now. So, you
Yeah,
know, that's why it's just like, you know, I encourage people, you know, just do your best to become empowered yourself. Do your best to, you know, just become an empowered person locally. That's the only way out of this slavery, honestly. I mean, you have to become influential yourself. You have to matter, because if you don't, you're gonna get swept aside by the forces in society that are not here to fucking compromise with you. They're not here to negotiate with you. So you just have to try to do your best. You know, some people might say, oh, maybe you shouldn't encourage more competition because that's just feeding into the competition. Maybe we should just all kumbaya work together. I mean, I don't know, man. I don't know, man. I think the best thing to do is for people to, number one, realize how they're being fucked. Two, learn techniques and approaches that can help them become as empowered as possible, and then go from there. But trying to negotiate with this shit, I mean, I think there's room, there's space, and there's time, and there's room for trying to work for a better world and focusing on peace and cooperation. But you also have to have a degree of competitiveness in you, because if not, you're just gonna get fucking weeded out, and you're not gonna even have a voice. So I think you have to balance the two. You know, work to a better world, but don't be too naive and where you're just no one even listens to you because you have no sway in society.
yeah, exactly. Like the idea of like knowing what you want as an individual is the most important thing to create a larger cultural shift.
Definitely.
People don't even think about what they want out of life to the extent that they should. People think, oh, I'm gonna get married, have children, get a job,
Oh.
and reproduce and essentially become a debt slave, because then I'll be able to buy lots of really cool shit and people possibly have a little bit more respect for me because I have a nice car or a nice house, some nice clothes. And what they're really doing is essentially giving their potential, or their life, their time, to somebody else's values, where they're essentially becoming a slave. They're not. They're slaves because they're not thinking about their own actions, about what they want, and what they should do in order to adapt to survive within their context. Because sure, like having those things might have been okay decades ago and might have been like a good value set to have, but right now it's kind of like, what, like, why would I want like children and marriage, knowing that A, men can get fucked over in divorce courts, B, it's very high probability that if I do have children, that they'll grow up in a world that's completely fucked, and 3, why do I want to have a monogamous relationship with women when they can replace men like shark's teeth through Tinder and vice versa? Why limit my own ability to have sex and have fun, meet lots of girls just for the sake of one mutual emotionally codependent relationship? Whereas people have these ideas that, oh, because everyone else does it, it's true, it's the right thing. There's morality in that. It's like, no, there's no morality in being sexually conservative instead of being a slut. In fact, there's more morality in being a slut because you're likely to please men sexually, and then they'll be happier and you're spreading happiness. And like, that's what it all comes down to. It's like all this conservatism that comes from era of pre-contraception, area of like religious values, is still kind of very much the backbone of Western civilization. It's still very much based around Christian values, of self-sacrifice. Even sacrifice yourself for the greater good. Don't worry about like thinking about what is the greater good. It's just what you're told it is. And yeah, you get all these kind of patterns of behavior that are just so reinforced, and to break them offends people so much that even if people are aware of like destructive things, they're reluctant to point it out because they'll get abuse held towards them. Like I post some fairly controversial shit on Facebook, and probably over the last year or two, probably lost 100 friends. So it's kind of just like, okay, like I don't really care that I've lost that many friends. I'd rather people hate me for who I am than love me for who I'm not, kind of. It's like, why bother putting on this fake facade and get more likes and stuff instead of being your true self? I've even done an experiment before where like sometimes I just deliberately post like Justin Bieber things and I'm like, will this get likes? It's like this is what people actually do. Like, people often post things that they think other people will like, whereas like I'm almost a bit too far in the opposite. It's almost like I like to piss people off a little bit. It's a little bit fun sometimes.
I love doing that. Yeah, that's my favorite thing. I love doing that. I went on a binge once. I uploaded like 5 videos in a row. That, like, because I have a very libertarian audience, and there was some incident happened where some cops shot a lady because she went rampaging in her car through like the Washington Monument area, and all the libertarians were like, "Oh my God, it's police brutality! It's a horrible thing." You know, the libertarians, they think everything's police brutality. Sometimes, you know, there's a lot of police brutality, but I think sometimes there are crazy people doing crazy shit. You know,
Yeah.
Civilians. So I uploaded like 5 videos in a row for like a whole week, basically saying the exact opposite of what the libertarians were saying, and I was purposely like trolling them, and I lost a good chunk of subscribers. And I told people in the video, I'm like, unsubscribe from my channel. I love doing that. I love telling people to unsubscribe from my channel. It's the funnest thing in the world. Like, I just love it. It's just the best thing I've ever done. I don't know why.
No, it's good. I liked the post you put up the other day on your Facebook, Red Pill Philosophy, where this lesbian with a shaved head punches some dude in the face. acting like a complete alpha male, and then she just couldn't handle the repercussions of her own actions. She couldn't handle the consequences
Yep.
of trying to act like a man. So like, if a man punches a man in the face, it's going to end in
Yeah.
violence.
Yeah.
And women are taught, oh no, it's okay, guys can't hit you back. Boom, reality check. And like, it's satisfying in a way to see that, and it's kind of sad, but it's kind of like as if people like that even exist. That's why it's sad. But like, yeah, it's like a word that I like that I heard recently by Mark Passio in his podcast, whatonearthishappening.com, is a word called androgyny. So essentially, what we're witnessing is like a denial of gender dimorphism, where men try to act like women and women try to act like men, and
Yes.
like it's everywhere, like to an extent, I guess, and it's something that like that I'm not a huge fan of, really. And then I guess like people are like, well, what is masculinity? What is femininity? And then you get like some of the associations are based on truth, based on like real things, like men are stronger, yes. But then there's
Right.
things that I just completely disagree with, like, oh, men are dirty and they don't shower and bathe. It's like, are you serious? Like, I shower like twice a day, and I've met like lots of girls that like really don't take care of themselves very well, almost because they want to be like men, kind of.
Yeah,
It's
Bill
like,
Burr.
bro, like,
Bill Burr had
yeah,
a funny stand-up piece where he's talking about how like men always call each other faggots for like this dumbest thing, like, oh, you use an umbrella, you're such a fucking faggot, you eat fucking pancakes with banana slices. What a holy shit! Sorry, my cat is like on a thing. Like, oh, you eat pancakes with bananas, man. You're a fucking faggot, bro. It's
yeah,
like,
yeah,
what
yeah.
kind of definition of man? What kind of definition of manliness does society have when such silly ass bullshit is defined as either manly or not manly? Yeah, there is a lot of misconceptions. What's fucking annoying? I rarely watch television, but my mom she always has the television on pretty much for the most part of the day, and this fucking cat is insane. Um, my mom has the television on. There's these fucking annoying commercials that try to associate manhood with the dumbest bullshit. Like there was a Taco Bell commercial. I don't know if you know what Taco Bell is over there in Australia.
Yeah, I've heard of it.
Some dumb taco shop, fast food crap. And the commercial is basically saying that real men eat steak and come to Taco Bell and eat our new steak fucking quesadilla stuffed with take and be a man. And then there was a Chevy commercial that did the same fucking things. Like, oh, real men drive big ass trucks. It's like, god damn, man, it's so fucking ignorant. And a lot of people do buy giant fucking trucks. Men buy that shit thinking that it's like a statement of their manhood.
Yeah, and where I noticed that in my own life, and I found like this is the most brilliant example of it that I can think of from my own experience. Is I did a manual labor job at the airport, lifting heavy freight boxes into freight
Mm,
containers, and we all
yeah.
went out together one day and got some. I don't know what we call it. It was like we were eating at 3 a.m. in the morning. Um, but yeah, like these guys were like fairly burly, fairly like stereotypical manly men. And in Australia, all of the tradies and all of the manly men are told that if you drink Farmers Unionised coffee, you're a man. Like, that's essentially the advertising. It's a Farmers Unionised coffee, or it's nothing. Like that's their promotional slogan. And I went out and got lunch with them. And they all had their iced coffees and cartons, and I got iced coffee as well, but it wasn't the same brand. It was like a different brand, and it was called French Vanilla Cappuccino, and it was like in a carton that like looked fairly similar. And they're like, "Are you drinking a cappuccino?" Like, yeah, yeah, like, mate, that's like some queer shit. I reckon you should like maybe sit over there. I'm just like, you guys, we're all sucking on cows' tits here. I mean, let's just be realistic. None of this is really that manly. Like,
Oh my god, dude. Yeah, it's funny because like it's the corporate culture we live in that tries to associate manliness with accumulating things. You know, um, to me, I mean, to one of the most manliest things to me, or the most courageous or ballsiest things to me, is fearlessness. Um, Fearlessness is where the real power is to me. I mean, or at least the courage, you know, something that's admirable. But what is fearless about feeling so insecure as a man that you have to buy a fucking $25,000 truck just to feel secure? What is fearless about a man who thinks he has to do steroids and lift a bunch of weights all so that he can feel at least moderately confident as he goes through the world because he's got big fucking muscles? Um, to me, the more a man needs to add things to who he is in order to feel secure and confident as a man, the more of a coward he is. And the thing is that we are steeped in a culture right now where manliness is associated with accumulating shit, whether it's the money or whether it's like having a bunch of girls or having a bunch of friends or it's having a big fucking car or having a big fucking nice house or having a bunch of muscles. Like, to me, if you need all that extra shit just so you can get through the day and feel confident enough to talk to a girl, that tells
Yeah.
me that you're a deep, deep coward. That you deeply lack a sense of certainty in yourself, and those are all crutches to me. A
And
man
and
who
a
has
lot
to
of
grow up.
it and a lot of it is there is an element where yes, there is a part of that is based on male insecurity, and then there's the other part of it which is based on female validation, which you really only need if you're an insecure male. So, like for instance, I met up with a girl last night on a Tinder date, and the three things where there was like a little bit of awkward tension was you still live at home, you ride a scooter, and you don't have a job. And I was just like, I love telling her that shit. I was like, that's how it is. I don't care, like, you know. But yeah, like it's funny how like those weird expectations of like, oh, I drive a manly truck, you drive a little scooter because you're a little bitch. It's like, yeah, well, in the winter, I'm outside embracing the freezing cold rain going against me. Like you can't just be like
Right.
weak and ride around in that. I'm like risking my life every time I go on the road.
Yeah, you can make as many rational arguments for why you're manlier in your fucking
Yeah,
scooter than he is in his fucking bulldozing truck. I mean,
yeah,
it's silly, man. It is really silly. You know, I think part of the reason all these things happen is because like I think it's just part of what happens when you live in like big cities. I mean, I've heard Joe Rogan talk about this before. I mean, when you're surrounded by like hundreds of thousands of strangers and you can't read people's minds, you know? So when you walk outside and you're suddenly in public and you're surrounded by potentially thousands of strangers in a day, it's just like there's just this like mass confusion that occurs where no one knows anybody and you don't know if somebody's having a bad day. So just saying hi to a person might just be the wrong thing to do because they might just be pissed off. Like there's just so much
they
chaos
might
and
be a feminist
confusion,
thinking that you're about to rape them.
or fucking that shit, which is fucking annoying. It's funny because the fat ugly feminists are the last women who are going to get raped by anybody. They're the ones most obsessed with it. Um,
I know, yeah, yeah. That's how it works. Because they want guys to want to rape them. So they're like they see men hitting on them where it's actually not occurring. So it's like, oh, he
exactly.
asked me for a coffee. He was coming on to me. That's inappropriate. Almost
Yeah.
like satire.
It's
It's
the ultimate
unbelievable.
psychological projection. They are projecting exactly. I mean, it's funny that's what they focus. I mean, these and again, I don't want to judge people by the way they look, but typically, I mean, the feminists are often self-hating, fat and or ugly, and the fact that they're so obsessed with rape. I mean, there was a picture on Twitter I saw the other day. It's like five girls They're all feminists, and they all wearing shirts that say "I love consent." And of course, they're all like overweight and ugly. And I'm like, why are you so worried about consent? Like, you're the last target of any rapist. Number one. Number two, you're probably getting the least amount of sex of all women. Why are you? What's up? Why are you so obsessed with something that pretty
Yeah.
much probably rarely ever applies to you? And I can't think of the reason. It could be, like you said, some kind of psychological projection. They deep down, they wish some man would come along and sweep them off their feet. The way women love, they want to be taken or whatever. That's why women flocked to the theaters to watch 50 Shades of Rape. I mean, Grey last weekend and still today. Um, yeah, yeah.
You bring up an interesting point. Like, it's an idea I had recently, is that most feminists, like, I had this theory that I then tested, and my research validated a little bit. I was like, I think most feminists would probably come from single mother homes. So I did some research on it, and turns out, yeah, a lot of them do. A lot of women that come from single mother homes, all they have to base, to perceive men through, because they don't have a real life example of a
Oh,
strong masculine role model, so they can only get an idea of what men are like through the cultural narratives, and that cultural narrative is feminism. So what are men like? Why is there no man in my life? Where's daddy? Oh, men are all bad. That's why your dad's not there. He's a deadbeat. He abandoned you. He fucked off. All men are bad. And then they project that into all elements of their life with it.
and yet
And
that's the same single mother who consistently dates abusive, shitty men she met at the fucking bar in the club, and then she
yeah,
wonders why all men are assholes.
it's self-perpetuating, because then they become attracted to men that are like that, and then when they go off on their own, get married, have kids, they're probably more likely to get separated, because there's likely to be an abusive relationship of some kind, and it continues the cycle. So it's like, yeah, what I know, also read in this article, is that women that were feminists were more likely to always challenge their partners and be less inclined to like admit when they're wrong and things like that. So it always comes down to like ego of just like feminism is very much repetition. There's no statistics to support it. There's no like self-evident oppression of women in my reality. I don't see it occurring. I think women have it easy, and all they really do is repeat, repeat, repeat. Women are oppressed, protect women, and that's all it is. It's an emotional response, and it's another form of like how society is influenced by parental abandonment issues, and it feeds into consumer culture, into feminism in very complex ways. And yeah, very much even within the education system. Um, for instance, I got suspended for winking at a girl, and there's so much emphasis on getting women to succeed more so than men at the expense of traditionally male attributes like innovation, bravery, and things that men generally did, where they're trying to force the idea that women are essentially better suited to all areas of life than men. And then at the same time, a lot of men have like this guilt complex where they're like, oh, I feel sorry for women. They've been oppressed for so long. We've got to treat them extra nicely now. I just got to be a gentleman. It's like, no, no, no. You're not doing yourself or anyone any favors with that attitude. You're going to get walked all the fuck over your whole life. And you're going to set up like the idea in women's minds that the way that men treat women well is by constantly pandering to their needs instead of actually treating them how I see. If you respect someone else, you treat them as someone that's equal to yourself, unless like you have reasons to think otherwise, of course. But like
Yeah, I was.
you treat them like with mutual respect. Like there's a dynamics like I can't just parasite off of you all the time. I can take from you, but I have to give to you as well. There has to be some kind of mutual benefit, where like there's a lot of guys that are happy with just kind of like being, I guess, like submissive to women, and ultimately it probably won't work out in the long run in most cases.
It won't. It won't. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, a lot of men do that. You know, they submissive to a woman, and the woman tells them what to do. And of course, a woman who dominates a man is not a happy or satisfied woman, in my opinion. I
Yeah.
really don't think so. They're usually pretty miserable, and they're probably cheating on the husband or the boyfriend
and
because
and
they
that's
can't. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
that's another thing that I read, is that like the women that came from single mother homes were less likely to have orgasms as regularly because they had trouble letting go emotionally. So
Um,
I think that would play into women that are like, fairly fat and manly. They're all kind of like, they've got their defenses up. They're like, I'm not going
wow.
down without a fight for you because like you're a
Wow.
threat to me. So they
Wow.
can't yield into their femininity and just be like, oh, I'm just gonna enjoy the moment, orgasm, brilliant. They're
Yeah.
fighting it psychologically.
Yeah, and then it manifests like you're saying, it manifests in their physiology, their appearance, the feminist looking dyke from the video I shared the other day, who she's got a shaved head and she's all manly and angry. I mean, yeah, that god damn. I mean, yeah, I mean, god, energetically. I mean, what a terrible conflict. The conflict
Mm,
between the ego mind perpetuating the identity of I am a manly feminist woman, and then the biology that is feminine with the monthly period, and then the vagina that is structured internally to receive, to yield very feminine qualities. The fact that she has more water in her body than men do, I think that's the truth. She's got these breasts, these soft, beautiful, round, curvy, not rigid, blocky, masculine shapes, but curvy. What a terrible affliction to be conflicted between the ego mind identity of I am a feminist, empowered woman trying to be a man, and then the biology and the energy that trying to do the fucking opposite. That's why I consistently say that feminism is anti-woman. It's a curse upon women. It's anti-femininity. It's just, God, you look at what a woman is, and a lot of people have trouble accepting this idea that there's such a thing as femininity, because number one, it's been made taboo, um, but number two, it's politically incorrect in essence. I mean, women being feminine and submissive. It's just Katie Cuoco, the female actor from the Big Bang Theory show. It's one great example. She says she likes to serve her husband. She likes being a housewife, cooking for her husband, and she literally had to apologize a few days later because she got fucking hung in the public square for daring
and
say that she has femininity in her.
and that's another thing I notice as well, with people in general, is when people ask me, "What does your mum do?" I'm like, "Oh, she's a stay-at-home mum." They get shocked, like they'll just be like, "What? Really?" And they're like, "But people define themselves by how much money they earn, so I don't really understand this. Like, does she feel trapped? Is she a slave?" Like, no, she's not a prisoner. Like, she's cool with her position in this reality, and like, I don't think there's a level of coercion. Like, it's not like it's
Exactly.
not a bad thing, but they always assume that there's some kind of like evil thing behind it. It's like,
Of
and
course.
all it comes down to is like, oh, she can't get taxed. What a shame. Oh no, like she could be like making sandwiches at Subway, getting taxed, and that's
But
that's what it comes down to.
that's an empowered woman right there. 750 an
Yeah,
hour, fucking making subs at Subway. That's an empowered woman. Now a woman making sandwiches for her kids, that's a fucking slave.
yeah, yeah. I find it hilarious, like getting served by a woman at Subway who probably thinks that she's like extremely independent. Such a contradiction of like the messages that are like put out there. But yeah, It's interesting
Yeah,
because
she's
men
in.
are responsible. Men are
Yeah,
responsible for female
she's
liberation.
independent in
So,
absolutely no way. She's independent in absolutely no way. She's not independent financially because she's making very little money. She's not really independent from the feminist perspective because she's probably working for a male boss. And she's not independent biologically because her feminine biology doesn't want to fucking do that shit. She wants to. There's a goddamn reason that women have wombs, man. There's a goddamn reason that they have vaginas. They have this thing inside of them that can create life. Holy fucking shit. Why is that being repressed and shamed? They have this thing that can create life. The woman, okay, feminists like to shame the idea that a mother should focus strictly on her kids and do that, nurturing her kids. And yet, at the end of the day, she has to nurture her kids for 9 months in the womb as a default, whether you like it or not. That's just part of it. So it's like, what's so shocking and weird that a woman might continue the process of nurturing her kids exclusively when she gives birth to them after they've been, after they're out of the womb? She spent 9 months nurturing them. She has this amazing, miraculous ability to literally create life inside of her belly, in her womb, without having to think about it. What a beautiful, incredible fucking thing. I'm going to fix the camera now. Um, and yet but the idea that she should just, keep doing what she's doing, nurturing her kids, that is shamed and that is demonized. It doesn't make any sense to me, and it's not supposed to make sense. It's just feminist brainwash, mostly a tool of elitism.
yeah, and it ties into the education system as well. Because could you imagine if the child came out of the womb and then like they weren't immediately thrown into an education system and there were parents there to help raise it outside of state and government influence? Then what are you talking? Is that anarchy? Is that chaos?
Yeah.
Is that insanity? Certainly some people, and like yeah, like the whole idea of women working full time and men working full time. I don't agree that anyone should be working 40 hours a week. I think that's ridiculous. But what I do notice is that when I see women working full time, they generally seem a lot more tired and stressed out than men that work full time. They have lower muscle like ratios on their body. So like when I guess it depends what they do as well. But like a lot of the time, like you'll see like meet up with women. Like, I've dated women in the past that like work a lot, and it's just like it's annoying when they're like stressed and take it out on you, and you're like, well, like whatever. But yeah, I mean, um, I don't think anyone should be working 40 hours a week. Hey, I mean, like you get the other side as well. You get like men that like do mining jobs that's extremely dangerous and strenuous on like their bodies, and then they come home and they're just like completely exhausted. Like my brother does manual labor, and his routine is to work 40 hours a week, comes home, parties on Friday, and vomits on Saturday. Pretty much just lays like unable to move because like you're so exhausted from like working full time, and then people kind of like take a lot of pride in it, and then they kind of get angry that there's people that are still alive that don't do that. It's like you don't have a job. Like they're not pissed off as much as they are. They're kind of a bit envious. They're like, how dare you? How dare you not be a slave?
Totally. Yeah, I think that's part of where the shaming of dropouts comes from. I think a lot of people, they shame dropouts because they're like, what? You didn't go to college? You didn't rack up $80,000 in debt? You didn't go through all that through that gigantic process, and you still have a decent job, and you're actually like happy and content in life? How fucking dare you? You know what? You're a dropout. You're a fucking dropout, and then they fucking shame your ass, and that consistently is applied. And next thing you know, if anybody has the idea or the inclination that, hey, maybe I don't want to go through the system. Maybe I want to start my own business instead of going to college, going massively into debt, wasting 4 years of my life doing shit I hate, to go work for somebody else, maybe I'll just create my own fucking job and bypass the whole college system in the first place. No, you're still labeled a fucking dropout. It's pretty shame. It's pretty sad that that label exists. I go into that a little bit in the book, but yeah, it's fucking
Yeah,
annoying.
like when I asked you if you dropped out before, I didn't mean it to have a negative connotation, but
No,
it
I
kind
know, I
of
know.
does. Like people use it all the time, like, oh, you
Yeah.
drop out. Like kind of sounds like drop kick. It's got like, but at the end of the day, it's like, why is it called dropout instead of like, oh, you left school prematurely?
I call it moving on to bigger and better
Yeah,
things. Yeah, drop out. I mean, the word itself, drop out. Like, drop means like you fell. Like everybody's continuing to rise to greatness, but you dropped, and then out, like you're outcasted from what everybody else is doing, moving towards success and greatness. Like the word itself is a shame tactic. It's a shame label. It is 100% designed to make you feel like shit for doing it.
yeah, definitely.
Dude, I don't want to cut this off abruptly, but we've been talking for a while, and I think I'm done. My brain
Yeah.
is falling out of my ears. But
Yeah, man, I haven't been able to have my air conditioner on because it's really loud and it's 45 degrees or something here. So yeah,
45 degrees. It was actually pretty cold
I
here in
will
Miami
probably
recently. Yeah,
I'll
man.
probably evaporate.
All right, dude. Well, yeah, it was really cool talking, man. If you want to go ahead and just plug your channel real quick.
Yeah, so if you're interested, check out my channel No Holds Barred. Check out my most recent videos of the last month, including Russell's brand of Feminism True. Did I deserve to fail university or is college a scam? Those videos are fairly relevant to what me and Red Pill Philosophy were talking about today. And yeah, check out my playlists, and I hope you enjoy them. I'll upload this onto my channel too, and I'll leave a lot of links to the things that we discussed today, as well as my design website called Evolutionary Designs, which shows my automated vertical farm concept. And yeah, hopefully you can check them out and enjoy them. And thanks to Chris for the good lengthy chat today.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, guys. Yeah, my channel for any of your subscribers who are listening is Red Pill Philosophy. Just type in YouTube Red Pill Philosophy, or maybe Mason will put a little link to check out my channel. Yeah, check it out. Subscribe if you like. Check out my content. Basically everything we just talked about now, I've done multiple videos on before. Have a lot of good videos on feminism, and I think some of them are pretty funny too. Yeah, so all right, man. Good talking to you, and we'll keep in touch, bro.
Sounds good. See you later.
All right, bro.